All right. Thanks, Chris. This next speaker, I told him last night I was going to go off script, but I got my script here because you got all these fancy titles. I got to remember what they are. This next speaker, I'm proud to say, is a friend of mine, and I'm glad to see that he's back in our business, engaged with us, helping us as we move forward as an industry. Real quick, Brad called me, a year and a half ago or so, and said, hey, I want to be the first one to tell you that I'm getting out of the business. And I said, holy shit. Sorry. So I was more ecstatic when he called me and said, hey, I'm getting back in the business in some fashion. So let me introduce Brad. Brad is the Vice President of Business Strategy at the Center for Sales Strategy. Man, that's a mouthful, Brad. He works with clients hand in hand, as he did when he was a broadcaster, to work on sales strategy, to work on how to form a sales team and selling. Prior to that, he went to Boats.com. What's the name of the parent company? Boats? Interesting. All right, so he spent a little time there, and then prior to that, he worked for Tegna. He was a general manager here in this marketplace. Prior to that, he was in Charlottesville, and prior to that, he was in Harrisonburg, Virginia. So he spent a lot of time in Virginia. He has a beautiful wife that puts up with a lot of crap. So Chris, I'm sure he left her at home because he wanted to be the center of attention today. But he and Chris have two kids that are cute as can be, Alex and Brady.
Hand me the clicker.
No. But come on up.
I'm going to stay down here.
Yeah, I should have known that. All right. Without further ado, Brad Ramsey.
Thank you. Test. Can you hear me? Yep. All right. Good morning. I love Chris Ornelas. Where are you? I've gotten to know him over the last couple of years, but the first rule of public speaking is to follow the legislative update. Right? Come on, come alive. Good morning. It's great to be here. I can't think of a place I'd rather be. It is good to be back in a room full of broadcasters, and I have a lot of friends in the room. This audience may be a little too friendly. I know some of you a little too well. I do have one very special friend in the room, though. Today is my 3-year friendiversary with Dave Paulus. So Dave and I have had 3 great years together, and we hope to be together at least 3 more. How many of you are in sales? Raise them high. Keep them up. Those that don't have your hands up, how many of you feel like in your organization you impact sales in some way, shape, or form? I think we got to 100% without me coaching you. Put them down. I'm glad to see it. I would argue we're all in sales, right? So we're either selling our station, our organization, our company, or we're selling ourselves. Your brand, what you have to offer, and I would argue everything you do every day is helping your station be better at selling and making your company more successful. So I hope the next 15 minutes or so that we'll spend together will relate to all of you in some way. I've tried to make sure everybody has a takeaway here. And I think you'll all be able to relate to this video that I'm going to show you. It's a 2-minute video, and I think it's emblematic of what our world has become. Take a look.
But Holland comes in for a pit stop. Time to refuel and change tires. Lou Moore himself changes the tires. Only 4 crew members, including the driver, are allowed to work on the car. It's a tense time. Holland stays in his seat, anxious to get away. Let's watch. tires are changed at last. A crewman polishes the windshield as Holland moves away just 67 seconds after he stopped.
How many of you feel like your life has turned into a series of 3.5-second pit stops? Right? We're overloaded with information. We're inundated with tasks. And I actually learned something every time I watch that video, and it just occurred to me, there's so many more people involved now. And aren't our lives that way? There's more consolidation in our industry. There's more people involved. You feel like you need more people involved in decisions. It's very complicated. And I think the 3.5-second pit stop that our life has become is the reason that everything you do, everything that's important in your life, either is or should be on your calendar. You have that time planned and mapped out. I worked with a visionary leader. Some of you in the room will know who I'm talking about. He's always said, show me your calendar and I'll tell you what's important to you. And I really have bought into that. I take it to heart. And I think we're pretty good at that, especially for things that involve other people. Right? If we have a commitment with somebody, it's probably on the calendar. If it's important in our life, it's probably on the calendar. So if I walked up to any one of you and asked you to show me your phone, I bet your calendar would look something like this for this week. Sales meeting Monday or Tuesday morning. Probably have a one-on-one with your manager at some point, regardless of the level that you're at in the organization. We all report to somebody, right? Those of you that are in sales, hopefully you have at least 3 or 4 client meetings on the calendar. I try to be realistic here. I know your boss is saying, I know, Joel, you're saying, you need to see 8 people this week. You probably have at least 3 or 4 appointments on the calendar. A couple of prospect meetings, should be more, but it's hard to get those prospect meetings, right? We like to group them together. That really important speaker Friday morning at VAB, that's on your calendar. You might have even had a doctor's appointment Wednesday morning. I worked with a salesperson who once said, if it grows on company time, it goes on company time. So you might even have a haircut on there yesterday afternoon. Maybe last night you celebrated a friend's birthday at dinner. That's important, right? So it's on the calendar. I bet if your kids have a soccer game this Saturday, that's on the calendar. Going to see Broadway in Norfolk or a show at JPJ in Charlottesville on Sunday, that's on the calendar. Everything that's important in life is on the calendar, right? But I bet you don't have any appointment setting time on your calendar. You'll get to it when you get to it. And I mean appointment setting with prospects. And maybe you have an hour here or an hour there. But I would argue in this day and age, in the age of the 3.5-second pit stop, you should have an hour every single day on your calendar for appointment setting as a salesperson. And those of you that aren't in sales, think about what's important that you should be scheduling time with yourself for each and every day. This does not mean an hour of picking up the phone and blindly calling prospects every day. I'll get to how you'll spend that hour. But I would argue the most important hour of every single sales day, that at least the most important hour that's not already on your calendar, is appointment setting. So ask yourself, is it there? And that's the one simple ask that I have of you today, is to make that commitment with yourself. In the age of the 3.5-second pit stop, in your life and the prospect's life, if you don't have a significant amount of time booked for this, you will not succeed. If you want to grow your business and your income dramatically and immediately, book this time with yourself. So over the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to outline for you a proven strategy for getting more first appointments with those big prospects that are on your list. And the very first step is scheduling time with yourself. And I would argue, if you don't make that commitment, you're not going to be able to achieve these next few steps, which are really, really simple. The second step in getting that first appointment with a proven prospect is to get attention and establish credibility. And I really believe you have to do both of these hand in hand. If you try to just get attention, you're going to kind of maybe stand out, maybe look a little silly, outlandish, but it's also hard to establish credibility if you're not getting noticed for the work you've done, the homework, the research, the knowledge that you've gained, the insights that you want to share with your prospects. So what are some ways to do that? The first one's really simple. We talk about it a lot in our business, but I don't think we act on it. When's the last time you sat down with your top 3 or 4 customers and said, I do a great job for you, I give you great value, that's why we keep doing business together. Would you recommend a few names of people that you work with or know that I should talk to? You should be doing this once a quarter with 3 or 4 of your top customers. Easy said, easy done, but we're not doing it. What about creating a personal marketing resume? This is not a business card. Kind of looks like one because of the shape, but it's a full sheet of paper. It's a resume, but not to get a job. It's a resume to land a prospect. And it talks about your accomplishments, your marketing knowledge, other success stories that you've had. Want to really get noticed? How about sending it via old-fashioned U.S. mail? Takes a few minutes, but it's going to get noticed a lot more quickly and a lot more often than an email, which is likely to generate a move to the delete button. Another great idea is to send good old-fashioned U.S. mail with articles of relevance to your prospects. And I would argue you should do it with your customers too, but we're talking about prospects today. Lots of free knowledge out there on Inc., Fortune, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post. Are you following business news, pulling relevant information, and sharing it with your client and prospect in this case? To get attention and establish credibility, you can think a little outside the box without being outlandish. I worked with a salesperson once who was trying to get an allergist. He was on her prospect list, an allergy doctor. She knew he was a great fit for what the station could do and what the station could offer. She had called and called and called. She had emailed and emailed and emailed. And she finally dropped off a basket of allergens with a note in it. An actual basket with weeds, grass, you name it, in the basket with a note. Said, I've been trying to call, I've been trying to email, this is my last effort. She got the appointment, she got the business. That was 10 years ago, and that doctor is still an advertiser on that station today. Establish credibility, get attention at the same time, and you really have to do it with frequency these days, this day and age. We're all using LinkedIn, right, to connect with prospects. It's become a great prospecting tool for those of us in sales, but how many of you are just hitting the connect button? That's a big mistake. Think about the difference if you identify a prospect that's a good fit for your station and you send a note with that invite that looks something like this. Dear Pete, I've been researching trends in healthcare, more specifically elective cosmetic procedure, your field. In my research, I came across your profile. I'd love to connect. I'll call you next week with some details on what I found in my research. Here's a link to an article. Insert the article here that sparked my interest in this topic. You've just offered something of value for this prospect that can make a difference in their business, whether they connect with you or not. But now they want to because you did that. You're 64% more likely to get that connection if you offer something of value and a personalized note when you send the connection invite. Really important. Last thing I'll say about getting attention and establishing credibility, this is not easy. We're not in an easy line of work these days, and it's not just the people in this room that we're competing with each other for money. We're competing with the copier salesperson that's in there and the person selling benefits to this company. A lot of people competing for their money, time, and attention. So you have to do your homework to get established and to establish credibility and get attention. You need to be reading their annual report. And maybe it's not a public company, so you say they don't have an annual report. Well, if they're in the home renovation business, they're in a trade association that has an annual report. Are you reading some of those free resources that are out there, like Fortune, Inc., the Wall Street Journal? Are you researching their competition? Are you keeping up with trends in their industry? And this is important. I think sometimes we think you have to go deeper and deeper and deeper. So if you have a kitchen company, a kitchen cabinet company on your prospect list, you think, I've got to know everything about this industry. I would encourage you to come back up a step and look at what's working in home remodeling in general and make sure you're sharing those insights. But the last thought I'll leave you with on this slide is researching the company's website is so yesterday. And everybody's doing it, and it's not nearly enough. You have to go a lot deeper. So you've scheduled time with yourself. You've gotten attention and established credibility with all that homework you've done. Now you need to always use a valid business reason when you're reaching out to this prospect to get a meeting. And once you have that valid business reason, you've invested all this time and energy, don't give up. And I'll tell you in a second what I mean by that. So what is a valid business reason? It's not what's in it for you as the salesperson or what's in it for me. It's what's in it for the customer. When you're reaching out via phone or email, are you phrasing the conversation in a way that will benefit the customer? Are you phrasing it in a way that takes into consideration their goals or what's happening in their industry or where they're trying to go? We used to think we could get that information in the needs analysis or the diagnostic when we sat down in the first appointment. Well, we're now in the world of the 3.5-second pit stop, and they don't have time for that. You've got to give the prospect a valid business reason for them to sit down with you in the first place. So here are some examples. This is actually not even an example of a valid business reason. It's just a weak attempt at getting an appointment. I'll be in your area next Thursday, or I'll be at the Hilton at the oceanfront Friday morning for the VAB, and you're right down the street, so I'll stop by and see what's going on with your business. That's about you, not about them. Our company recently decided to target your industry. That's about you, not about them. Or it's even about their competition, even worse. This is a little better. My company is educating the market on healthcare reform. We understand your industry and can help you stay on top. Put strategies in place. Better, but blah, 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 blah. This could be said to anybody in their category. This is much stronger. I recently read your company's annual report and noticed you're planning to upgrade your wellness program. I know how challenging that could be. We actually just helped the company go through a similar launch. I'd love to meet with you and share the top 3 things we learned. You're certainly not obligated to work with us, but I think the insights I can share would help you with your rollout later this year. You don't want to sound scripted. I may have sounded a little scripted just now. You have to put it in your words, but you have to make it about them and where they're trying to go. And you just offered this prospect something of value, whether they do business with you or not. It shows you did your homework. And again, you've gotten attention and established credibility. Once you have those valid business reasons, you've done your homework, don't give up. 80% of sales appointments happen after 6 contact attempts or more. And that is not 6 contact attempts over 6 months. How many of you have had a great prospect on your list? You think back to that calendar, you had a break between appointments, you pick up the phone, you leave a great voicemail, maybe you even have a great valid business reason. They don't answer. You think, I better try again in 30 days. I don't want to let them fall off my list. In this day and age, in the age of the 3.5-second pit stop, you need to be making these 6 or 7 or 8 contact attempts in no more than 21 days. That may sound crazy. You may think that's not the business I'm in. Well, that's the business we're in. And it really takes that to stand out these days and get noticed. So schedule time with yourself. Get attention and establish credibility hand in hand. Always use a valid business reason. Once you have it, don't give up. You've proven your worth. You've done your homework. You have something to offer. Take that client where you know they need to go. And then this last simple step, don't sell yourself short. Make sure you manage expectations. This part's really easy. Send a calendar invite. When I first got into sales, this seems so simple, right? Brad, you're stating the obvious. When I first got into sales, I was scared. We didn't have Outlook and Google Calendar then. I was scared to call the prospect the morning of the meeting to remind them that I'm on their calendar. I was afraid they would cancel. We have this great tool now. As soon as you get the contract for the appointment, when I say contract, I mean simply the agreement over the phone. Yes, I'll meet with you because you had such a great valid business reason. Send the calendar invite immediately. It blocks it out on their calendar, and you're much less likely to have anything else take that slot. Send a checklist, though, or a list of bullets inside that appointment invite of what you intend to accomplish in the meeting. Again, you're establishing credibility and building trust before you've ever even met with the prospect, and you're setting the expectations for the things you're going to want to talk about in the meeting. Whether it's dive deeper into the valid business reason, talk about the executive team, talk about the initiatives. You might even put a bullet or two of what the meeting's not about. I'm not going to bring anything, how many times have you sat down with a prospect and they say, all right, show me what you got. I got to move on to my next meeting. Tell them you're not going to bring anything to show them. Manage expectations. Schedule time with yourself. Get attention and establish credibility. Always use a valid business reason and manage expectations. You'll be on your way to a lot more first appointments, but I can't emphasize enough how you have to schedule time with yourself. I worked with a great trainer who's still a mentor of mine to this day, and he used to say, training without action is entertainment. I've thrown a lot at you in 20 minutes. I would encourage you to take that one thing away. Schedule this time with yourself, not to pick up the phone and call, but to be more prepared to pick up the phone and call. The way I get ready for presentations like this is I write them out and I create an outline. And so I've created a white paper of this presentation. I'm glad to see some people took notes, but you can download a white paper of this presentation that you can actually take and use as a sales meeting kit for those of you that are sales managers. There are two ways you can get that. You can email me, Brad Ramsey at csscenter.com, and I'll send the link right back to you for the white paper. Or if you want to go straight to the site and download it, if you're familiar with bit.ly links, most of you probably are, that's actually the web address, bit.ly, bit.ly/first-appointment, and the download's free. And I'm happy to talk to you if you want to use that email address about getting more appointments anytime. The advice is free, but be aware it might be worth the price you pay. Thank you very much.